Find your comfortable seat, whether that's on a prop or a pillow or a block. It can also be in something other than cross-legged position if that's more comfortable for you. And starting to arrive here physically and mentally. So starting this turn inwards today. Starting to notice what's going on in the body. Noticing that physical body, noticing any aches and pains, noticing what feels really nice today. Noticing your seat, noticing the weight of the sit bones and the earth, maybe noticing your hands where they're resting. And starting to move even more inward to the mind. Noticing the thoughts coming into the mind today. Noticing those emotions. Maybe something that is causing some worry or anxiety. And just noticing them. We're giving ourselves this time today to allow the mind to settle, allowing the body to settle. This practice of finding stillness, both in the mind and in the body. So bringing this awareness into these spaces and recognizing the breath and just noticing it at first. So noticing the quality and the quantity, noticing where you feel the breath. Maybe you feel that in your heart space. Maybe you can feel that in your belly. Maybe you can feel the air moving in and out at that tip of your nose. And start to take the breath a little bit deeper. So really taking that breath into the belly, feeling the belly expand. The belly button begins to move away from the spine. The mid ribs begin to expand. The heart space expands. And as you take these deep breaths, think about filling up a balloon. So when we blow into that balloon, the air goes to the very bottom and then it fills in the center and finally up to the top. And then as you let go of that balloon or that air, that exhale in our body, first the top begins to blow out and then the middle and then finally the belly. Slowing down this breath, starting to smooth out the breath. Noticing the strength on the inhale as you fill up completely, feeling that fullness of the breath. And then as you exhale, feeling that emptiness, also a softening. Maybe you notice how your shoulders begin to soften away from the ears. Each breath growing a little bit bigger than the one before. The mind begins to settle on the breath, paying attention to the very beginning of the breath to the very end. Take a few more breaths here at establishing our practice today. Keeping the fullness of the breath, begin to take some movement into the neck. You can bring some movement into the shoulders as well. Maybe you move the neck from side to side, over, looking over the shoulders, or take it into some circles. Maybe you shrugging the shoulders up to the ears and rolling them around. Taking 3 to 5 breaths here, moving organically into the neck and the shoulders. Also noticing where there might be a little bit of stiffness and giving yourself permission to pause at any place. Taking one more full round of breath. And at the end of that breath, coming into a more neutral place in the neck. And that neutral or in aligned neck is a slight tuck of the chin. Not so much a tuck of the chin where you're making like 18 chins, but where it's just slightly back and you can feel a lengthening on the back of the neck. And then we'll start on the left side. So pressing the left hand against the temple, press into the temple and the head into the hand so that you can feel this lengthening. So we're working on an isometric stretch, finding both strength and a stretch in the neck. Keep pressing the head into the hand and the hand back into the head. Take one more deep breath and then release the hand back down to your lap or wherever it's comfortable. Again, find that neutral spine and we'll move to the right side. So this time the right palm, I like to use just that big pad on the bottom, moves toward the temple and pressing the hand into the head and the head back into the hand. Taking a few deep breaths here. So we're still taking those deep breaths and still moving or pressing gently the head into the hand and the hand into the head. Take one more breath down into the belly and then releasing that hand back down to the lap. Take your chin down towards your chest. And we'll do the same thing. We'll do this all around the head. So with the hand back onto the back of the head and pressing the back of the head into the hand and the hand back into the head. You can use 2 hands if that feels better. So just finding length on the back of the head and the back of the neck. Taking 2 full breaths here. And then releasing those hands as you're ready. This time we're going to take a slight movement with the left ear toward the left shoulder. So find that alignment first. You might get sick of me saying that chin is slightly tucked and that length on the back of the neck. And then take the left ear toward the left shoulder. Keep that right shoulder soft. And then the left hand comes toward the left side of the head, which is moving down towards your shoulder. And again, press the hand into the head back into the hand. Soften through the right shoulder. Soften through the jaw here. Let the jaw be, that lower jaw slightly move away from the top. Take one more breath, keep pressing the hand into the head and the head into the hand. And then release. Picking the head up, stacking it on top of the rest of the spine. Find that alignment, chin tuck slightly. And then this time the right ear moves toward the right shoulder. Soften through the left shoulder. and the right hand comes to the right side. I have my hand just about above my ear in that space a little bit. And then press the hand into the head and the head back into the hand. Again, noticing that left shoulder, softening it, pressing and keeping the fullness of the breath. Press hand into head and head back into hand. And release. Stacking the neck on top of the rest of the spine. Take a deep breath and then find some movement here. So again, maybe taking the gaze over one shoulder and then the other. Maybe just moving the gaze down toward the floor and up toward the ceiling, or taking the neck into some circles. Noticing the difference. Maybe you have a little bit more movement or more space in your neck. And then pausing in this neutral spine or this long spine in this seated position. And with your next inhale, begin to take your arms around and up, reaching high to the sky or the ceiling, keeping the shoulder blades down and away from the ears, and hands come together as they move in towards your heart center on the exhale. Inhale again, arms reach around and up, finding length on both sides of the body. And exhale, hands together in front of your heart. One more time as we reach around and up with that inhalation. With the exhalation, bringing the left hand down to the floor and starting to hinge over toward the left side of your space. The further that your hand is away from your body, that left hand, the deeper the stretch is going to be on the right side of the body. Softening through both of the shoulders, reaching that right hand overhead, keeping both sit bones weighted evenly to the earth or to a prop, and expanding the breath into the right side of the body. Feeling the breath moving in between the intercostal muscles between the ribs. Your gaze can look down toward the floor, or it can look up toward the ceiling, or if it feels better just to look straight ahead, keep it there. Take one more full breath here. And with your inhale, coming back up to center, both hands reach up, and exhale to take it to the other side. So this time the right hand comes down and the left hand goes over the ear and overhead as you reach toward the right side. Again, hips or the sit bones weighted evenly. The rib cage is stacked right over the pelvis. Gaze can look down or up or straight ahead. And finding your breath here in this pose. So breathing deeply, feeling that expansion as the left side of the body moves away from the right side. Softening through the shoulders, the forehead, the jaw. Take one more breath here. Inhale to come back up to center. Both hands reach up. Take the hands in front of you. So the fingertips are reaching forward and your palms face each other. Bring your brain into the backs of your shoulder blades and start to move the left shoulder blade forward. So not moving the elbow forward or the wrist forward. We're moving from the shoulder blade, and then bring the shoulder blade back onto the body, and then moving to the right side. So right shoulder blade reaching forward and bring it back. And just continue this movement from side to side. Keep the torsos tall and just in one place, we're just moving the shoulder blades, reaching the shoulder blade forward and bringing it back. Notice the breath. Notice where the breath has started to dissipate or gotten shorter, or maybe even completely stopped. Finishing up the round that you are on, start to walk your hands up overhead. So just slowly making these shoulder lengthening and strengthening on the back as you start to reach up. Very nice. Continue the breath. And once you get overhead, just start walking the hands back down in front of you. And if it feels a little awkward, it's okay. We're just doing a little bit of yoga for the brain too. So we're just moving in a different way, trying to find some space in the back of the body. There are so many muscles attached to the shoulders, moving them in a different way. So as you bring your hands, or as they come back out in front of you, you can bring the hands back down to your lap and slowly start to make your way onto your hands and your knees in a tabletop position. From this tabletop position, the knees are underneath the hips, the wrists are right underneath the shoulders, and take the weight into the fingertips so that you can protect those wrists a little bit. With your inhale, press into the earth like you're pressing your hands away from your knees and lift the tailbone up toward the sky. Exhale to pull the hands towards your knees as the tailbone rounds. So we're bringing a little bit more active muscles into this cat and cow position. So pressing the hands away into the earth as the tailbone lifts with your inhale, and exhale to pull the hands energetically toward the knees as the tailbone rounds toward the heels. Moving with your own perfect breath. As you inhale, lifting the tailbone up, and exhale to round the tailbone. Start to bring that same curve into the rest of the spine. So thinking of a Halloween cat as the spine lifts up toward the ceiling and the chin comes down toward the chest. And inhale to slowly start to even out the spine. And we'll do that one more time. So pulling the hands in toward the knees, rounding through the tailbone, and slowly starting to take that curve into the rest of the spine, moving vertebra by vertebra. Inhale to lengthen the spine, coming into a neutral spine. With your inhale, lift your right hand out in front of you and your left leg back behind you. Keep the foot flexed to find that long energy moving through the body. Keep reaching from your center, so from your belly button. Keeping your gaze down toward the earth. Keeping the rib cage on the back of the body. So noticing whether you're thrusting the rib cage toward the earth. Take one more full inhale here. Find even more length. Keep the left leg lifted. Bring the right hand down to the earth. Kickstand the right leg off to the side of the mat and start to transfer onto that right hand, lifting the left arm up toward the ceiling or overhead. If this is a little too intense of a pose, you can always bring the left foot down to the earth. Keep lifting up through the right hip. Think about making a rainbow shape rather than a straight line for this side plank or Vashisthasana. Notice the right elbow. Keep a softness in that right elbow so we're using our muscles rather than the joints. Maybe bringing the pelvis forward slightly. Find even more breath in this pose. Take one more deep breath here, and then exhale to slowly unwind, coming back to that tabletop position, hands and knees. The left hand stays planted this time. Lift the right arm out to the side and up toward the ceiling, and then thread that right hand through the space between the left wrist and the left knee for thread the needle. Coming to lay on the outside of the right shoulder or the back of the right shoulder. You have some options here with that left hand. You can keep that left hand planted underneath the shoulder with a bend in your elbow, or you can stretch the left hand out in front of you for a little bit more length on the left side of the body, or you can bring that left hand to the low back or even to that space or grabbing the inside of the thigh. We'll be here for about 8 breaths. If you do not feel this pose in the shoulder blade as you create space between or behind the right shoulder blade, sit your hips back just slightly over the heels. Feeling the breath in the torso, breathing more space into the body. And also noticing the mind here. If the mind and the thoughts have started to move on to the next thing or started to move into the to-do lists, begin to bring it back to the breath. Where can you soften in this pose? Take 2 full breaths. Let the back of the body rise up toward the ceiling as the belly expands into the floor. Start to bring your left hand underneath your shoulder so you can use that as leverage to unwind the right hand. Breathing the right hand out to the side and up toward the ceiling. And then setting the right hand back down next to the left. Again, this tabletop position. With your inhale, the left arm reaches forward and the right leg reaches back. Find more length through the body, centering yourself over the hand and the knee, pressing the hand and the knee into the earth so that you can find more length here. Keep breathing into the belly. Keeping the right foot flexed this time. Keep squeezing into your center so even though the arms are in different places, we're still hugging into a center line. Take one more deep inhale here. Start to bring your left hand down to the earth. Kickstand the left foot out to the side of the mat, keeping the right leg lifted, and start to transfer onto that left hand. The right hand reaches up or overhead. This can be your pose, or you can bring your foot down to the earth. Lift up through the left hip. It's almost this wrapping around of the left glute or the left butt. And so you can lift up and the pelvis shifts forward. The breath is the movement in this static pose. So keep that breath full. Keep expanding and lengthening. Take one more full breath here and slowly exhale to unwind, coming back down to hands and knees. This time, the right hand stays planted, lifting the left arm out to the side and up, and exhale to thread that left hand through the space between the right wrist and the right knee, coming to lay on the back of the shoulder. Lots of variations with that right hand. It can reach out in front of you or even come into a bind where you bring the hand to the low back or to grab that inside of the left thigh. Breathing into the back of the shoulder. Let this breath take the entire torso. Breathing so deeply that your breath moves into all of the spaces. Relax through the jaw, the forehead. Deepening the breath. Noticing the thoughts, if they're starting to take you out of this pose. And find somewhere in the breath or in the body to bring those thoughts to. Paying attention to the fullness of the breath. As you feel balanced on both sides, begin to bring your right hand back underneath the shoulder to use that as leverage so you can breathe the left hand as you unwind it out to the side and up toward the ceiling. And then setting the left hand back down next to the right. Take your hips over to the left side. Maybe you pause there. Maybe you begin to move your hips over the ankles or the heels and moving to the right. Taking some hip circles. Finding stillness or movement in your body. And eventually coming back to this hands and knees position. Start to sit back onto your heels. If you have a block, you can grab that. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You don't necessarily need it. It does just help to bring the earth a little bit closer to you. So we'll start with the right foot forward. And find a connection to that right foot into the earth. My toes, my left set of toes are tucked, but you can also bring the laced side of your shoes to the earth if that feels better for you. So the right foot is right underneath the right ankle, and the left knee is underneath the left hip. So pressing into the left foot and also the right knee, and then feel as if you're hugging them or squeezing them together. And keeping your hips facing center. Think of that as headlights, that we're keeping the headlights just facing straight in front of us. They're not pointed down in a tilt, and they're not pointed up as if we are tucking our tailbone underneath us. So the spine is just neutral spine. And again, bringing the arms out in front of you with the palms facing each other. And we're gonna do that same shoulder stretch. So reaching the right shoulder forward and then bringing the shoulder back and then the left. Taking a few of these on each side. Keep pressing into both feet and keep hugging into that center line. One more visit through each or on each shoulder, reaching the shoulder blade forward, moving from the shoulder blade and not from the elbow or the wrists. Coming back to center, we're gonna open to the right side. So keeping, I'll shift a little bit so you can see, we're gonna add a little bit of a twist. So again, keeping those hip bones facing forward, we're gonna open the right arm to the side and then inhale to come back to center. Exhale to open, the gaze can follow the hand and coming back to center. Exhale to open. Inhale back to center. 3 more. 3. 2. And 1. My breath may be a little bit different than yours. Hands come back down to the earth to frame the foot and bring the right foot back to meet the left. So this time the left foot moves forward. Again, you get to choose what feels best for your right foot, whether that's the lace side of the foot down to the earth or tucking the toes. Either way, press into the back foot, the right foot, and all 4 corners of the left foot. Energetically squeezing that left heel back and the right knee forward and hugging in. Again, the hips stay facing center. We're not tilting down by lifting the tailbone up, and we're not tilting the headlights up to round the tailbone underneath. So a neutral spine, very long spine. And then we'll bring the arms out in front of us, palms facing each other. Start with one shoulder reaching and bringing it onto the back. You know the movement, taking a few visits to each side. Really bringing the brain into the shoulder blades. And then we're gonna take that twist on this side as you're ready. So this time, the left arm opens, the gaze follows the hand, and inhale to bring it back to center. Again, pressing into the feet, opening up that left arm back behind you, and inhaling back to center. And exhaling, arm moves back, feeling that twist coming from the core as the hips stay still. And then 3 more. Feel the reaching from the shoulders in opposite directions, but also a hugging in sensation. 2. Stay with the breath. And 1. And hands come down to the earth to frame the foot. Step the back knee back to meet the other and find a child's pose. Sitting the hips in between the thighs, or even keeping the thighs together as you lay the torso over the thighs to maybe get a better stretch in the low back. You can decide here. Taking 3 deep breaths. This is a very humbling pose. Where can you soften here? Beautiful. Notice the jaw, the forehead, the shoulders. One more full breath. And as you inhale, bringing your hands back in front of you, if they are not, and coming back into that hands and knees position. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back. So it's that same feeling that we've been doing when our hands are in front of us. Squeezing the shoulders to hug the spine, and then press into the earth to broaden the shoulders on the back. Again, squeezing the shoulders against the spine and pressing the earth away as we broaden the shoulders. Walk your hands forward just slightly. Squeeze the shoulders and keep that squeezing as you bend and the elbows and start to come down onto the belly. Bring the forearms out in front of you, about shoulder distance apart. Keep forearms pressing into the earth. Keep the shoulder blades squeezing against the spine and open the heart. Energetically pulling the elbows back, feeling as if your heart is moving forward. And take a few deep breaths here. So really stretching into that heart space in this Sphinx pose. Smoothing out the breath. With your exhale, begin to bow your way forward. So you're completely on your belly. Stretch your right arm out to the side of the mat. So if you can see this, I would like to walk my fingers out a little bit further than I think. So you can roll onto the right side of your body into a shoulder pigeon. The left hand can stay underneath the shoulder to support you here. You have a couple of options with your knees to choose your own adventure. They can come stacked on top of one another in a bent like you would in a fetal position, or you can stretch the right leg out and bring the left foot to the ground behind the right leg with the left knee pointed up. The head rests against the earth. And this stretch is stretching into the front of the shoulder. If you don't feel it in the front of the shoulder, walk your hands forward or down or even a little further out in order to find that nice Goldilocks stretch. There's no pain, but there is sensation. Deepen the breath to match the sensation here. Taking 8 more deep breaths. Noticing in the body if there's somewhere that you're holding on or holding tension in this pose. Maybe it's something as subtle as the breath. Maybe you're clenching one of your fists, your jaw. Feel the belly rise and fall with each breath. Start to roll back onto your belly. And we'll take the other side. So stretching the left arm out to the side this time, walking the fingers out a little bit further so that as you roll onto the left side of your body, you get that nice stretch on the front of the shoulder. This time the right hand can support you underneath the right shoulder. And again, choose your own adventure with your legs, either bent and stacked on top of one another, or with the left leg stretching out and the right foot coming behind with the right knee pointed up. Noticing the difference between both sides. Maybe one side has a little bit more sensation. Noticing that and acknowledging that, but not giving it any weight. There's no right or wrong or good or bad. Again, give yourself permission here to explore. So maybe walking the fingers up or walking the fingers down, or even reaching a little bit more out to the side to find that stretch. And then deepening the breath to match the sensation. Noticing the breath. Noticing if it has shortened on either side of the inhale or the exhale. One more full round of breath here. And then beginning to roll back onto your belly. Hands come underneath the shoulders. And inhale to press yourself up to your hands and your knees. And exhale to sit back into a child's pose. Take a few breaths here in this child's pose. As you come to your next exhale, start to walk your hands over to the left side. Sit the right hips back a little bit more. Breathing into the right side of the body. You can make this pose as active or as passive as you would like. You can reach that right hand a little bit further than the left. You can press or pull into the earth. Find more stretch, more breath in between the armpit or the shoulder and the hip on this right side. With your next inhale, bringing your hands back to center, and exhale over to the right side. Again, this time the left hip sit a little bit deeper. Think about accentuating that crease on the left side of the hip. Active or as passive as you would like. Think about inhaling in through the left side of the body and exhaling out the right. Finding more space inside of the body. Inhale to come back up to center. Coming into hands and knees and sitting back onto the heels. You can bring your heels onto either side or bring your hips onto either side of your heels to swing your feet out in front of you and begin to lower yourself onto your back in the center of your mat. Bringing the knees into the chest, maybe rocking from side to side. Reconnect with the breath here. As you're ready, bringing the feet down to the earth, knees up toward the ceiling. Find that slight tuck of the chin that we were talked about in the beginning of practice. So the chin isn't lifting up toward the ceiling, it's moving down, and you can feel the length on the back of the neck. Again, we're going to stretch the hands out in front of us so the fingertips are reaching toward the ceiling and taking that shoulder stretch once again. So you know where we're going, bringing the brain into the shoulder blade, reaching from one side to the other. Take one more visit to each side. And then we're going to make a little bit bigger of a twist. So this time, reach the right shoulder up and over, crossing over the body to the left. Coming back up to center and lower the shoulder blade. This time the left shoulder blade reaches up, cross the body to the right, and then come back to center and lower the shoulder blade. Again, right shoulder blade reaches up, cross the body to the left as you reach over. Come back to center, lower the shoulder blade. Left reaches up, cross the body. Coming back and lowering the shoulder blade. Take the knees over to one side and then the other, moving into a windshield wiper position. You can pause on any side for as long as you need. Maybe feeling this in the low back. Take one more visit to each side. Find your breath. And no rush as you come back to center. Bring your right knee in toward your chest and stretch the left leg out in front of you. Keep that left foot flexed, keeping the left heel on the ground. Maybe starting to move the knee into some circles. Maybe bringing the knee outside of the rib cage. Explore this pose for a few breaths. And bring the right knee back in towards your chest. Keep reaching through the left foot. That left foot is flexed. Breathing deep into the front of that left hip and gently start to swing the leg or move the leg out, that left leg out to the side and bring it back in. So slowing down the movement isn't big. So it's like slightly sliding the left heel out to the left side. We're getting into the psoas and the hip flexors. Keep your breath full. Take one more of these slides. As you bring the heel back to center, so it's straight out from the hip bone, just pausing and taking another breath. Start to lower the right foot down to the earth. Maybe slide the right foot or the left foot to meet the right. And taking a few deep breaths here. Resetting. And then as you're ready, the left knee comes in toward the chest and the right leg stretches out. Flex the right foot, the heel stays on the ground. A little bit of movement into that left hip so you can take that left knee out to the side of the ribs. You can take some circles with the knee. Taking a few breaths here. And then as you're ready, keep that flexion in the right foot, keeping the heel on the ground. Left knee is in toward the chest and start to gently slide that right heel out to the right side, slowly bringing it back in. Find your breath, still breathing fully in that inhale and finding the emptiness of the exhale. Take one more slide as you move the right heel out and bring it back in. Take a pause here, breathing deeply into the front of the hip. And then gently set the left foot down to the earth and bring the right foot to the earth next to it. And soften here. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Cross your right foot over the left knee. You can stay right here in this figure 4 pose. You can bring that, you can cross that right ankle over the left knee. And you can stay right here, or you can thread your hands to the back of the left thigh and bring the knees in a little bit closer to you, getting a deeper stretch on the outside of the hip. 5 deep breaths here. Taking the tongue off of the roof of your mouth. Softening through the forehead. Feel yourself completely soften with your exhales. As you come to your next breath, beginning to unwind. So if you have that left leg lifted, bringing the foot back down to the earth, maybe taking some windshield wipers, or you could take a happy baby, whatever your body is calling for to reset the hip. Maybe find a little bit more space there. And then we'll move to the opposite side as you're ready. Again, there's no rush. As you're ready, crossing the left ankle over the right knee, keeping that left foot flexed. You can stay right here in this figure 4, or you can start to go a little bit deeper by threading your hands to the back of the thigh. Energetically, think about moving that left thigh or the left knee forward and out to the left side. 5 deep breaths here. Where can you soften? Coming back to the breath. And when you feel balanced, beginning to unwind, bringing the right foot down to the earth if it's lifted, bringing the left foot or ankle off of the knee, and taking any movement of choice. You could take a cobbler's pose, some windshield wipers, a happy baby or a half happy baby. You could bring your knees into your chest and rock from side to side. And when you are ready, start to stretch your legs out in front of you. Maybe reaching your arms back behind you for one more full body stretch. And then eventually bringing hands alongside the body and settling into this final relaxation.